where you look at it from every corner and you're like, I can't find a way through. In that moment, you like, I can't find a way through, and you're frustrated and you're angry and you're emotional. The difference, I'll use my corporate experience, is the difference is how long do you dwell in that moment versus how much time do you spend in the solutions mindset that follows it, right? The solutions and the growth mindset that follows it. So you have to allow yourself to be okay with falling into that valley from time to time, because it's human. It's a part of who we are as human beings. What you can't do is allow yourself to dwell in that valley, right? So the old Japanese proverb, right? Fall seven times, rise eight. I have that posted on the wall in my dojo. I remind my students of it all the time, but I keep that with myself because, I mean, I had to rebuild an organization in the middle of a pandemic, right? Take it from record losses into profitability, record profits and growth, right? I've had to, when we had the global economic crisis, I was running a company that had, outstanding lawsuits, all kinds of issues, couldn't sell product, had seen its market share drop by 60%, and we had to turn it around and get it back to a place where it could win. Everything around said failure is the most likely option, right? And so, and there are some dark days in those moments. Just like when, I use my daughter. She has this one athlete, right? That she faces this one athlete, and it always goes down to the last second, and that girl beats her, right? And it's not that it's a lack of skill, and then what she walks away with was, I knew that was going to happen. Just like Cam just articulated, I knew that was going to happen. And but what I tell her all the time is, it's okay to be frustrated, right? But you can't live in that space. You have to say, okay, I got a bag of lemons. Most of them are sour. There's the next group is rotten, but I'm gonna take something out of this and I'm gonna make it sweet. And I'm gonna find the rise. And so it's for us as sensei first, and I always say that sensei first, coach second, to help instill a framework for them to do that. And then as coaches, helping to exchange with the athletes so they can trust in us and feel good, so that we can grow through that with them, right? But it's all a life.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. So with those obstacles, and of course there's going to be accomplishments with them. How do you celebrate accomplishments? What do y'all do with your students, your athletes, coach, parent? How do y'all celebrate the accomplishments?
Cam, I'm gonna throw you under the bus.
No, it's good. No, I was listening and learning from what you were saying. So I all time, I just want to let you know.
I'm just messing with you.
Celebrations. What the same process, right? I don't want to change the process just because it's something that I think is good or it's perceived as good, right? Because then it's gonna be the repercussion, right? It's just like the earthquake effect, right? What's the aftershock gonna be if I change the process, right? So there should be that same idea. First thing, if it's to cry together, smile together, right? Like that's the mindset, right? And not as far as my personal perspective, nothing changes there. If an athlete wins, we're gonna talk about it, like happy about it. We'll hug this, that, we'll hold the excitement and, have the ear to ear smile all the way back to the staging area, and then cry for the medal together and all that stuff, right? But as far as whatever else happens, right, it correlates back to, okay, now the behaviors can't change from those original pillars that we talked about, right? And reminding yourself with the elite level athletes and people that are, used to sports psych work, we have pre-performance, performance, and post-performance routines that were developed consistently. And those post-performance routines are arguably more important than your pre-performance, because that's what's going to keep you basically in line, in check, and able to continue to move forward. And after the wins or the losses, maintaining the pre-perform or the post-performance, that continues to keep you in check. So, like, for example, for myself, whenever I was competing, I had to go through a 20-minute cool down, whether I had one match or 7 matches, just to be able to go, like, get myself into an emotional state where everything was okay. That, you know, all the priming questions that might happen after your competition. Hey, you didn't look so good today. What happened? Right? And instead of just wanting to slap someone across the face, how are you gonna, you know, answer that in a decent way? Or like, you know, I mean, Cheryl knows, like, there's a lot of pressure that comes with having the last name that is mine and things that might be there, right?
Mhm.
So always instigators or you know, and the things that were like, you won because of this or you lost because of this, right? And so being able to navigate and get myself to a point where it was always consistently, hey, get yourself into the emotional line where you're able to win the way you want to and you lose the way you want to, right? And then take the steps that's necessary to cross that. So then, as now the coach perspective, I want to align exactly with what the athlete's process for that is. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to force them to change anything. I want to align with what's going through that so that they have someone to support them through the process of it all too.
Can I just, because it's been brought up, and if you don't want to necessarily go into it, we don't have to. I'm not going to get specific, but there are certain things, because that was like what you brought up about, you know, having a last name, that kind of stuff. It brings a certain type of stigma, pressure, whatever it is, right? So with that type of negativity, where it could be people may feel like there's a favorite, or the people may feel like they're not the favorite, or, you know, other people are gonna win because of whatever the reason is, I'm not. How can that be addressed in trying to work through that, either work through it positively? You based on what you said, like you made a routine to where you were able to kind of bring it down, so you were able to address whatever was going to come at you because you knew it was going to happen.
Sure.
Kind of the other end of it is, you know, people may feel that, and it could be their reality. Where if I'm not part of this school, if I'm not with this group, or if I'm not this, I'm not that. How do you, you know, rise from that and still be able to, you know, kind of perform and be on that positive, or even handle the negatives?
Sure. Yeah. I'm so, again, it comes down to approach, right? And that's just the values that have been instilled in you and the things that you want to do. So, for example, going into every tournament or every you know, to battle, and I think my approach could battle both ends, right? So if you're on the my end or you're on the reverse end, right? And that was the goal of no matter what. And especially in a judge sport, we don't have like a goal that's very distinct. If the ball goes across the line, it's a goal, it's a point, or, you know, it's a judge sport. My day-to-day ideology was, I want to be so good that it leaves no question. And if there's ever a question, right, or if there's ever an exchange that could have gone the other person's way, I might as well consider that, you know, like not a defeat necessarily, but then I gave someone the reason to give somebody else the point.
Mm-hmm.
My objective then is to, not in the sense of pressure, like this is bad or this is good, but my goal is to push myself to be so good at my skill that there's no question, right? And even so, you could look at it from the country standpoint, but then if I went to international, I mean, I'll be honest with you, my top ranking for the seniors in the world was 11, right? So I never got, and if I was fighting a top 5 guy, the referee's eyes are going the other person's way, right? And I beat those people. I mean, it wasn't enough to continuously stay within the top 10, but in the few instances that I was beating those people, it was because I had that same mindset. I cannot give this person the opportunity to be there. Okay, knowing that, let's put the energy back on myself. Okay, that's the where I can control. I can't control anything else, right? I can't control what, you know, what anybody else is going to say, what anybody else is going to do. So then, okay, I need to make sure I'm in the best spot so that I can accept and push in the best way. So that
goes, oh, sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Good. That was my pre-way, right? So I'm talking about like leading into everything.
Right.
And I don't want to turn it into a complete vent session, but in the last 2 years of my career, if you will, coming out of the pandemic, I almost stopped, right? I almost completely stopped and said, hey, you know, my family business is this, right? The pressures of trying to be this, and this, or whatever, right? And it's a consistent thing. And I see myself being more valued as someone that's actively helping the community, you know, working towards my studies and helping the dojo, you know, and fill the role of lead instructor. The thing that got me to come back and really push and consistently work through those things was no longer medals, though. The only thing that got through me is that mission statement that, you know, everything, I'm tying everything back to the beginning because that was what got it, right? and through the consistent obstacles and through the consistent phone calls that I have with people, I was like, I want to stop, man. This is too much, right? I'm on the verge of breaking down, breaking out. I'm going psycho because of this, right? And the only thing that got me through all of that was that mission statement of, okay, I'm trying to learn as much as possible. That was my mission statement. I'm trying to learn as much as possible. I'm going to these tournaments to learn as much as possible so that when I switch over to coaching and teaching, I'm able to relate to any situation at any given time, at any from pressure. If you give me 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, I can change an athlete's mindset and perspective because I went through those things, right? And that was my mission statement going into those last bits. So again, that was all the preemptive things that go back to whatever we've talked about before and defining things and then using them to then your day-to-day process, right? That's what's going to push and instill the 1% better every single day. Now, because of me being the person that I was, I knew that there was always going to be pushback. If I succeeded, there's going to be pushback. I'm sure I'm not the CEO of a company, but Sensei Marcus can attest to this about 50, 100, 1,000 times more than I can, right? But if I succeed, there's going to be pushback, and the end of whatever, it's going to be some sort of bad repercussion. If I lose, there's going to be some sort of bad repercussion. So getting myself to a state where I could just be consistent to myself and not absorb but work through those things is why I have such a strong post-performance routine, right? And that goes back to very similarly the step-by-step questionnaire that Sensei Marcus said for what's my day-to-day training routine. Okay, what did I get out of training? These were the challenges, but these are what I improved on. This is what I improved on. Okay, knowing that, I got the emotions out, I got the skills out, I can go back to just being Cam. The athlete is done now. I can go back to just being Cam. The results are what they are. If you're happy about them, okay, great. If they sting a little, that's a part of it too. But now I can go back to then switching, flipping the script and going, hey, I can go back to being me, the sensei, the coach, the teammate, the whatever else it might be.
Yeah, I want to chime in on this one because I think Cam hit some really good points. And so first off, you talked about celebration. The process has to be the same. Because if you make a big differentiator between celebrating success versus celebrating a learning opportunity and a loss, then what you're effectively building in the psyche of the athlete is that anything less than the model or the narrative of success is failure. Okay, so where we want to build is anything less than what we had planned for is learning. Okay, so if we make this celebration, oh, you made it to the top of the podium, so great, so high. That and create this disparity between that and the learning moment, then when they don't make it here, they're broken. Okay, and now you add all the success that you had, you got to go back and rebuild it. And that doesn't mean that there's not glory in that moment. There's glory. Okay, but if you handle it functionally different, then you create a disparity, and that's when the arrogance breeds in. And that's when you really create almost a bipolar pattern in the person. And again, the same thing applies in the corporate space, right? So for me, you paid me a great compliment just now. You don't realize it, right? When you said that, I kind of didn't make a big deal out of it. But look, throughout my career, I have been the first in a lot of instances. Definitely the first minority in many cases, right? First Black executive in the last 3-4 companies that I was in. And there's always the narrative that says, kind of like Cam, oh, he got this job because, and then there's an expectation of what your outcome is supposed to be. Okay. Similarly to Cam, and again, I don't think it only applies to people who are in these kind of unique situations. It should be applied to everyone. You have to say, I am going to do the best that I can, and by whatever your metric is, right? You have to have a metric of what success looks like for you. In the corporate world, it's pretty easy, right? It always all boils down to dollars and cents and growth and all that kind of silly stuff. But your success is a measurement. It's a quantitative scale that you use for yourself. So that when you go back and someone says, well, you only got that opportunity because of X, Y, Z. Well, I look at my quantitative scale and I say, well, no, actually, I knocked the numbers out of the park. So if you find somebody else who's going to knock the numbers better, have at it. And in that way you can be confident and feel good in yourself, because unlike my athletes, when if I make a presentation or I do something and it goes wrong, the as my kids would call the opposition shows up instantly. I walk off the stage and I'm surrounded by media and they're hitting me with every fallacy, every misstep. I mean, and it's instantaneous. So like, your post-performance routine. Yesterday I had an investor conference and I had 200 people sitting there, media and cameras and all this kind of stuff. And I'm doing this presentation. And the moment I walked off the stage, I had about 5 minutes. When I went out, they took my microphone off, and then I had to go out into the group, and there was a line of people waiting to ask me questions, right? And so I had to switch context that quick and be ready for critique, criticism, praise, celebration, flat out distrust. I mean, in that moment, okay? And I think to reiterate what Cam said is the consistency of the approach, right? This is how I prepare myself. This is how I dwell in the moment. This is how I discharge or do my post performance, and then coming back to my why, not yours, not that person's, not even coaches, not even the senseis, but my why. And again, for us as coaches and sensei, it is imperative that we know our why, and then we know our athletes' why, and we try to find connection between those two things. But I can never let mine overcast theirs. Okay, and so bringing it all back around to the comment, the original question, celebration. The celebration is centered in the why. Okay, why are you here? What are you trying to accomplish? I love camps. I want to learn. I want to get better. Okay, so if that is it, then every single time we come off the mat, good, bad, or otherwise, there is a celebration, and the celebration is centered around that why.
I think that's absolutely amazing, so powerful. I can't wait for people to hear this, because I think it's gonna impact, empower, again, just the circle of support, not even just the athlete, and an athlete hearing this too, and kind of taking it back and saying, oh, what can I take from this, and try to make it more of a consistent part of their regimen. But I think in getting that support from their senseis and their coaches, and in helping them to implement these things, I think it's really, really important. And so let's get to, and this can be, for both, but from different aspects, tips for parents. Like, again, some parents their child just turned 12 and they're able to get into the elite, the juniors, or maybe they're just now, able to perform well and got the first and second place into their training in competition. The 2024 season is coming. A lot of different changes, a lot of different tournaments. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? Some tips for parents walking into 2024 season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first place I would start is, parents in this sport are very interesting, because I don't think that they always understand the context of what we're doing, especially when you have a kid who's doing the international elements, the Pan Ams and the youth leagues and so on and so forth. So, most of the kids are in, neighborhood baseball and soccer and volleyball and so on and so forth. And parents are tripped in that space, right? But then you bring them into karate and they apply their same rubric of success here. It's not even close to the same thing, okay? And it's really one of the real difficult things for me is to help the parents to understand, okay, I get that your kid does well in, San Diego, youth league baseball, okay? And they made it to the championship in Group 3 of San Diego Youth League baseball. Okay, great. When you put them in youth league here, the athletes that are coming, that they're competing against, in some instances, they're the effective equivalent of a professional athlete, right? And they are stipend, and they have housing allowances, and they train 4, 5, 6 times a day. Times a week, and it's supervised and it's funded. It's not even close to the same thing. So I think one of the things that we as USA Karate, and I've had conversations with the CEO and the chair about this, is doing a better job of educating our parents to understand really how great of an opportunity what they're doing is, right? And how it is a differentiated thing. Not, and I don't say that for them to walk around with their chest poked out and being boastful, but really to calibrate expectations as well as calibrate a sense of work ethic. Okay, because it's a, you know, um, international gymnastics competition that's more akin to it. But the journey to get to an international gymnastics competition is a huge long list. Our athletes are able to do what some of these other sports do in a fraction of the time. Okay, so that's one. I think that the next big thing is for the parents to the parent, it goes similar to the coach. The parent should also set out what are their goals and objectives. What do they want? Because what I see oftentimes is the parents are living their experience vicariously through the kid, and they are infatuated with this notion of winning, and to the point where they push the kid in a way that can be, for lack of a better term, destructive. Okay, so it's I get that you want the best for your child and you want to provide them with opportunities and for them to grow, but also we got to have a modicum of patience and a willingness to still allow a child to be a child. Okay, so such that they can have fun in the journey. So every time we go to a tournament, I tell my athletes we have 3 rules. Okay, the first rule is have fun. The second is learn, and the last is win. Okay, and I said you can never put those things in the reverse order. And a lot of times, and I've had to sit down with my parents and remind them, I want you guys to know these rules, right? Especially for youth athletes, they will gain so much just by being present, by learning these skills, by being in a space where they have to show their worth in front of thousands of people, by having to stand up with pride and present themselves. Okay? Don't take the fun away from that. Because if you're not I tell people all the time, I've never taken a job that I didn't choose and every job that I chose because I thought I was going to learn and I was going to enjoy it. If I don't enjoy the job I have, I quit. Okay? And that's a lesson that they carry through all of life. We don't want these kids to grow up and be living in miserable work circumstances because they feel like they have to be here. No, you don't. You don't. The old adage is if you make your avocation your vocation, then you'll never work a day in your life. In other words, if you turn the thing that you love into the thing that supports your life, then you never work a day in your life. The sport should be the same way. So let the kids have fun. Then focus on learning, right? So Cam's personal philosophy is absolutely fantastic. And I hope that everyone sees this, watches it, and internalizes it, because to hear an athlete go through that journey, to articulate that for themselves, as a young athlete, and then translate it into a professional rubric that they can share with other people. I'm telling you, just listening to you talk is inspiring to me. I love it. I want every one of my students to hear this. Okay. And then the last part is, if you're going to do something, try to be the best, period. Right. And give yourself a perspective about what best means to you. But if you're going to show up, don't show up to halfway do it. Show up to leave it all on the mat. So anyway, that's my big thing for the parents. Remembering those points.
Yeah, definitely. I'm more on the simple side of it, if you will, or a straightforward side to it, if you will. But I think that the core standard. So okay, let me backtrack a little bit. For my athletes, since in the community that I live in, it's a multifaceted. So every kid does like 7 different sports or activities or everything like that. I don't have too many that are just in karate or just trying to be successful with karate, right? Which is, in a lot of ways, I love it. It's great, I want them to be well-rounded human beings before they're an athlete or any type of high performing in any category. Regardless, we have seasons is what I'm trying to get at. And so I break down the year into three seasons, and then it adjust depending on the level. For example, for elites, they'll have like a different kind of a season, that translates out. But what I start with each season out with is a sports psych session that we just cover what the team's core standards are and basically what we're holding each other accountable for the entire season, for trainings, tournaments, and everything else in between, basically. Knowing that, those are the same things that I'll be sending to the parents so that they're on the same page with me. So that basically, based off of what Sensei Marcus just said, they're able to come up with their own versions of like, oh, okay, well, the kids are really working on valuing full, true confidence and belief in themselves this season. How can I support that as well? Right. And that's going to lead to the second point of everybody stick to their job. Right. And that's what I would say. Right. So as far as the coach goes, I love feedback from parents. Usually, though, when they come and tell me, hey, he should be throwing more punches than kicks, that's where I get a little tough. It's a little tough for me. I don't fight them, but it's a little tough for me, right? Or like, why is my not going to 7 tournaments? And I'm like, well, you just came up to me about how you can't financially afford this process, right? That's going to this, and I can't. I came back to you with a like a fundraising process, but you denied it, right? Or anything else in between. So basically what I'm trying to get at is everybody stick to their part, right? I will be the coach and sensei. The athlete just needs to be the athlete. They don't need to be a coach, or they don't need to worry about taking care of themselves, because I got that part, and I will make sure that's happening. So when it comes to like, for our teams that are traveling and trying to do everything, there's already so much that's going on. So then what I ask the parents to do is quite literally just be parents. Right. And if they have a issue or a challenge with anything that's going on, we need to have an open communication forum. This needs to be, they need to come talk to me. And I need, right. There's no, and it's good. I want, almost to an extent, I want to have the relationship where we can disagree. I want to be at that point, right? Because if it's not like that, then I'm faking something and they're faking back to me. It needs to be open. I need to know what's going on, and I need to know how they feel. So then that way, if I am missing something, I can adjust and go forward, right? But it comes down to the niche of like, stick to your, I don't want to say stick to your lane, but perform what you need to perform. An athlete needs to be an athlete. A coach needs to be a coach. A parent needs to be a parent. I'm not doing the athlete any justice by saying, oh, I need to treat this like I'm the athlete, or I'm like the parent of this kid. It's not going to work like that, right? So, and then that way, everybody can focus on being the best support system for what the athlete is in their given right, or in their given way. And then that way it's the most effective, learning process, if you will, for everything that goes into each one of these experiences. Because more than a lot of these medals, if I look back as a kid growing up, it was all the trips, right? All the team events, all the things, talking and being around, and all those things that I remember the most out of everything. And that was because parents were being parents, and the athletes were being athletes, and the coaches were being the coaches.
Yeah, so I'm going to double down on what you said, because you really went into the don't do. A lot of parents have been around a lot of tournaments, and they've been to a lot of events, so they've got good perspective, right? So they've been around. But you get to this place where, well, I've decided, that they should be doing X, Y, Z, or that I think that they should be doing. It's kind of like the same thing. Again, I use the parallels in corporate America. I've got a marketing guy, and he's really good, and I hired him because he's really good at what he does. I don't need you to try and tell the engineers how to engineer a product. Okay.
Sure.
So you can advise them on what you have heard from the customer. You can share with them the perspectives that you view, but that's where it stops. Okay. And then you need to respect that person to be the expert that they are. And then if we find that their expertise is not the appropriate one for the job, then we make a change accordingly. And a lot of times, because parents, again, they love the athlete, they want to, in some instances, they're living vicariously through the athlete's experiences. They want to assume all roles. Okay. And it's destructive. It's confusing to the athlete, especially with the young ones, right? Because, I have to listen to mommy and daddy, right? And I've got Sensei over here, and I think Sensei knows what he's talking about. But they find themselves. I've seen really extreme instances where an athlete becomes emotionally distraught because they can't rationalize between two inputs that are coming from two very powerful individuals in their life. Okay, so parents have to recognize that is very, very dangerous to an athlete and to the psyche, to the psyche of the young person in general. So the other thing that Cam said is really important, and I can't stress enough, is the way that you negate that is open, honest communication. Okay. Don't, we are all here for the benefit of this athlete, right? It's junior athlete, senior athlete, whatever the case may be. We have to be able to discuss the circumstance of it openly, good and bad. You know what, Sensei, I think that you should have done blah, 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 because if Johnny did this yesterday and he was more successful. Today, you had him do something different and he wasn't as successful. Why did you change? That we should, as a sensei, we have to be open enough to have that, or a coach, we have to be open enough to have that conversation and to accept the challenge and to rationalize our approach. But then the other side, parents, you have to be willing. If you have a view, you have to share it, and you also have to be willing to be quiet and listen when the sensei or the coach says, this is what I believe is right, and it's incumbent on us to be able to explain why, but that is the job that you have assigned to us. Okay. The other thing I would say, in this day is just a little unnerving, is I notice a lot of, because we have more opportunities for athletes. I mean, when I was young, you had AAU, and then you had USAKF. This was before MKF. You had USA, and you had to go. You went, state, regional, junior Olympic, national, right? And you had to qualify each way. Now we've got all these different tournaments that you can go to. You go to youth league, and there's not a pre-qualification methodology. So everyone's kind of creating a different formula. And we've got training camps and seminars going all over the place, which is fantastic. But in some instances, we get to a place where these things become subversive, right? I see parents and athletes kind of jump from one place to the next. Well, I don't like what he said. I don't like what Johnny said today, so I'm going to go find Coach Bobby. And I don't like what Coach Bobby says, so I'm going to go to Coach Susie. And that is when I think you start to lose some of the fundamental strength that makes karate unique to what it is. Now, that's not for me to say that as Sensei Marcus, I've got the answers to all things. No, I don't. Absolutely not. Right. That's why I call on friends. That's why I'm sitting here having this conversation. Okay. But I think the absence of that open dialogue has the potential to disrupt what makes karate as powerful as it is to begin with. Because some of the base principles that exist, the discipline, the consistency, the hard work, the loyalty, if we disrupt that, then some of the goodness that exists in karate that makes it as powerful as it is also disrupted. And we're disrupting it for what? For chasing a medal? To Cam's point, the experiences at the end of the day is what really is going to grow that athlete into a great human. Okay. And if you go back to the beginnings of karate, I mean, like I said, I study Okinawan karate, and what their core philosophy is, everyone in the world should practice karate so that everyone understands their strength. And if everyone understands their strength and potential for harm, then they will have a greater appreciation for their power to create peace. And then the world will be a better place. That is the objective. That is the objective. The title Hanshi means role model, right? It doesn't mean I'm grandmaster. I'm super smart. It means role model for society. Okay, and so I'm sorry. You could tell I'm very passionate about this point. So I think I'll try and bring it back home. What Cam said: open and honest conversation. Allow each person to play their role. We don't have to avoid the uncomfortable discussion of I don't understand or I'm not happy. Embrace those conversations, and then everyone work together as a team.
I think that's all absolutely amazing. And I mean, the next topic was going to be, parental guidance and what to do and not do as a parent. And I believe that both of y'all kind of brought those things up. So I'm just going to see, and you can say, you want to add to it or not. But one is to be a parent. Everybody has their role into supporting the athlete and in whatever the goal may be. And being a parent and supporting your athlete in that way will only be will be beneficial. Let the coach be the coach, and let you given that responsibility to the coach to lead into what they have experience in and are knowledgeable in. So let them do that and have that open communication on both ends. So if you do feel that you have some questions as to where what the goal is and how they're going to get to that goal, and you find certain things that you're not really sure about, then make sure you go to your instructor and have that conversation in hopes that that instructor will be able to give you um, a response as opposed to it taking it personal, but just actually opening up and saying, well, this is what I plan, this is what the plan is. And actually, Cam had spoke about this, being preemptive to it. This is what we're planning for the entire year, right? And if you find, and if you find that you have any questions or concerns, then come to me, and then, okay, well, this would be the solution. All right, fine, we'll go that way, and then we'll be able to do this. So I think that's important too. And it kind of goes back to being organized and planning from the beginning. And then, of course, being able to listen. And I say we because I'm also an instructor and I have coached a few athletes as well. And, we have been doing this for a while. And so with that, because you are in the position that you're in, whatever job you may have, employment that you may have, you are experienced and knowledgeable in that particular area. We are the same. We've been doing this for 15, 20, 30 years. Trust in that. And you have entrusted us, so let us do what we need to do. Is that kind of what in the do's and don'ts of what parents should and shouldn't be doing? Y'all agree?
Yeah, definitely. That was a great pull together of everything, and it's the best part about this is that it circles back to the beginning.
It does, right? It does. It absolutely does. And in each particular point is if you're organized and you plan, then anything can happen. And of course, nothing's going to be perfect. But because you have actually these steps in place, then when those things or obstacles come into place, then you have all these different skills to address them, and then be able to, be better on the other side or other end. So I think that's absolutely great. Well, one, I want to thank you both for sharing your experiences with us. This is exactly what we were hoping to have the conversation, and just how to prepare for the new season in 2024 and competition. Is a lot going on, and
Yes.
having these other skills in helping to organize and plan will definitely be important in doing so. So we'll go to each one. So Cam, please share what's coming up next for you, how they can contact you, all that.
Sure. So right now I'm in the midst of just trying to get the message across of what Sports Psych is and give just basic hints and tips for different topics that are out there. I'm on all social media platforms, and through that, just trying to spread the message of how to work through all the challenges and nuances that happen within sport. Doesn't really matter what athlete what kind of sport you play, or what type of athlete you are. It can help about everybody. On top of that, I'll be going more Series A, youth leagues, and Premier Leagues this upcoming year, 2024 season, if you will, to help support and be a part of everybody's mission statement, and to bring it all together. The final thing that I'm trying to really get going is bringing people together. And it happens to be here in Colorado for these elite camps, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of shorter camps that happen over the course of weekends, and people want more. So I'm trying to offer full week-long camps for athletes and have basically all-inclusive stay, if you will. So your food, your housing, and your training is all covered, in addition to your recovery, to help take the stress and pressure off of what the majority of the traveling is. And the thing to bring it all together is it's group run, right? Obviously, I'm the one who's running the practices, but if there's something that someone wants to work on or talk about or work through, we're here for it. And that's the whole point of doing this, And so I'll have one in January, but then another one in June as well.
Awesome.
Fantastic. That's absolutely amazing. So Marcus, anything coming up for you?
Well, so we're getting ready to kick off the season, and it's similar to what Cam said. So our focus is on the youth leagues and the Series A's. I pick a selection of about a dozen tournaments local for all of the developmental athletes. I'm happy to share that with anyone. And then also, like I said, I sit on the board of SoCal Karate. So one of the things that we're trying to do is really modeling other sports development programs that have either professional or Olympic trajectories. So, and then how have they systematically developed athletes from 6, 7, 8 years old all the way through collegiate and professional level. Because if you think of basketball, right, there's youth league, you have youth league basketball and how they teach fundamental skills, and then they move up with middle school and they move up with high school and so on and so forth. We think that there's a pattern to do something very similar for karate that allows athletes to be more successful on the world stage. And then we're also investigating the potential of organizing collegiate leagues in Southern California as a model for something that we could project across the rest of the country. So lots going on, and then I got this other thing called a day job.
So this other thing, taking over the car company sale. Oh my God! Yeah. Okay.
So we'll do our best. But look, I want to say, guys, I really, really appreciate this. This was a fantastic conversation. Cam, your work is excellent. It's inspiring. I love the spirit that you're bringing to it, and the level of professionalism and maturity that you're cascading to the athletes and to the students. Cheryl, you're always a great role model and a beacon. And I've told you that. I've used you for that in my dojo, and my students know and look up to what you represent. So guys, this was a great honor for me to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
And again, I just want to thank you both. Karate for Change, this is what we're trying to do, is just making information resources more equitable to everyone, being able to reach as many people as possible. Like for us, we're having a women's camp in March, where we're going to have female instructors, female athletes, and then we're going to have an all-inclusive training camp on that Saturday. So it's March 7th to the 10th, the tournament with EGN. And then from the 7th to the 9th is training. And then from later in the afternoon will be all inclusive. But in order to make sure to empower women, all instructors will be women. So we're trying to definitely just empower and just share, again, resources in order to make sports, in this case, karate, more equitable. So we're trying to do that as well. All right. So again, sorry, Ken, what did you say?
No, I just wanted to say thank you as well. Y'all just hit it with 2 mic drops, man.
All of what you're doing too. Like, I think the fact that you're able to do it, I think is absolutely amazing. I think, like, we've had, we both had, like, I've had personal conversations with Cam, I have personal conversations with Marcus, and that's why I brought thought of you when having this type of conversation. It's just bringing those different perspectives and having people really understand and know who you really are and what y'all represent. And there are other resources besides the regular types of resources that are out there. There are other ones that are, if not better than what's out there now. So I just hope people take advantage of what you bring, and look forward to more conversations. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.